What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay Rich, back to bring you your MLB props for June the 22nd. Yesterday was another tough day with Anthony Rizzo not having a good game. Andrew Vaughn getting pulled late in the game where he would have went over. Unfortunately, he didn't have a very good game either, but of course, Luis Robert stayed super hot, so that's fine, I guess. And then talking about Jonathan India, literally homered in the very first inning, so that was fun to see India go for a jack up against Tony Gonsolin, who pitched pretty well otherwise. He allowed some runs early, a couple of home runs, but overall pitched fine. Gonsolin's still a great pitcher. India just got the best of him on that matchup, and that happens. You know, it's nothing you can do about it. Just got to get back to it today. And I found some plays that are interesting. They're not great. There's no real smash plays today, but a couple guys I do like, so let's get into it right now. So we start with Bobby Witt, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., CJ Cron, Freddie Freeman, and Charlie Blackmon. So the issue here is that you have a lot of really good pitchers and some suppressed totals. Nobody really eye-popping smash in the model for today. Bobby Witt had a 2-homer game yesterday in LA, but up against Shohei Ohtani, neutral matchup, pretty good, a slightly positive park factor, P-Val factor is good, but no history of note that we want from Bobby Witt. 5.5 total, very modest. He can steal a base, he can draw a walk, he can obviously hit, batting third in the lineup more than likely. He's a fine play. He'd be a flex play for me. I'm not all in on him. The only two guys I really like are CJ Cron and Freddie Freeman. CJ Cron has 3 hits in 3 of his last 4 games up against Pablo Lopez, who, while he started off really hot, hasn't pitched his best. But it's important to note that he did have a 6-inning, 0 earned run outing in Colorado against the Rockies. So he did pitch pretty well, and Cron doesn't hit him overly well. But with how hot Cron is right now, you see it right here, 10.85 over his last 14, 15.67 again, mostly because he's been hitting the ball a ton, scoring a lot of runs. So there's a lot of things to like with Cron, almost run per game, almost an RBI per game, over half an extra base hit per game, and almost 1.5 hits per game. Lots of things to like with Cron. Obviously, he's good for home runs. And yesterday, it was a massive game. I think at one point it was 8-8. It must have finished even higher than that. But that game between Miami and Colorado was a massive run total for both sides. But I do like Cron. Again, only a 6.5 total. Pretty modest for a guy who is heating up a little bit. And when CJ Cron gets hot, look out, because he started off the season really hot, came down a little bit, but now is starting to ascend again and get really hot. Like I mentioned, 3 hits in 3 of his last 4 games, so a lot to like with CJ Cron. He'd be a guy who I'd be making a core play along with Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman's up against Luis Castillo, who is a pretty good pitcher, can have some good outings, some bad outings. But again, yesterday the Dodgers put up 8 runs on the Cincinnati Reds. I don't expect that necessarily from Castillo, but we know the Cincinnati bullpen is god-awful. Freddie Freeman also hits .429 against Luis Castillo, so I do like that familiarity there, 3 hits and 7 at-bats. And so overall, I think it's a good play. Again, the park factor is good. The P-Val is relatively neutral. Pitch factor is about neutral. But Freddie Freeman is, again, 14.4 points per game over his last 7 days and 11 over his last 14. In the absence of Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman has really stepped up, and I think that today is another great spot for him to do some damage against the Cincinnati Reds. And then the last one that I also saw was Charlie Blackmon. Total of 6 up against Pablo Lopez. Also hits .400 against Pablo Lopez. Over a hit and a half per game, 2.67 total bases per game, almost a run per game, half an RBI per game. So again, some guys that I really like today. Cron and Blackmon, if you wanted to stack that, wouldn't be so bad. I don't hate it. I think it's a real option for you. It's just, is Pablo Lopez going to have a gem today? And that's always a concern. So I think I would ride with Cron more than Blackmon, but both could definitely go over. You can see right there how hot they've been overall. And so I do like it. And then Vlad up against Lucas Giolito, who has got the better of him mostly in his career. You see batting .300, which is fine, but the last outing, the interesting part is that the Jays did put up 6 runs on Giolito, but Giolito got the best of Vlad, and Vlad didn't get any hits in that game. Now, to be fair, Vlad was in a slump, and Giolito hasn't been pitching very well. He's allowed four earned runs in 3 of his last 4 starts, so he hasn't been as sharp as he normally is, and so there's definitely some run potential there. We've seen a lot of runs in this Chicago White Sox-Toronto series, so if you wanted to take Vlad, I do like it as well. I would probably build around Cron, Freeman, and Vlad, and then you could mix in a Bobby Witt and Charlie Blackmon if you want to. I think those are the 3 guys I'd be leaning with today. Again, 7.5, 6.5, 7. pretty high, but not the 8.5 of the world that we see for the Baltimore guys, that even though they're against Patrick Corbin, I just can't recommend them, right? As much as I want to say, take the overs in Baltimore, Patrick Corbin's going to allow 5 home runs, 10 RBIs. Like, I could say that, but the truth is that that's just a very high total for guys who are really going to be pushing it. They'd have to have a really good game. Mullins is an 8.5. Mancini's 8.5. Hayes is 7.5. Now, if you want a play that I am playing today, I do like Ryan Mountcastle to hit a home run at 6-1. So again, not a play that you have to make and not one you can necessarily make on PrizePicks. But if you like anybody, I think Mountcastle is the guy. He's so hot right now. Mancini is the guy who's been kind of okay and didn't look so good in the model. But if you did want to play Mullins or you did want to play Hayes, both of them did look good. Just didn't have quite as high of a projection as some of these other guys. But again, with those 7.5, 8.5 totals up against Corbin, who is terrible, but if he throws it together an even decent game, there's a good chance those guys go under. So that's why I didn't recommend those guys. But overall, these are the guys I'm looking at. I think Vlad, Cron, and Freeman are in great spots. And if you did want to stack up with Blackman or go with Bobby Witt, I don't hate that overall either. So those are the core plays for today. These are the guys I'm looking at. These are the guys that kind of popped in the model and the reason why I may or may not take them. Make sure, as always, drop me a like if you like this video and subscribe for future content. And as always, if you tail, give them a hell. And if we fail, do not bail. I'll be back tomorrow with more data-driven analysis and picks. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm out. Peace.